Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate, Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
Well, the long break probably tells the story, but Penn State season did end in the Orange Bowl against Notre Dame on not a game-ending field goal, but there was like 5 seconds left, so pretty much a game-winning field goal. A lot to get into on that game. I know anyone listening to this probably watched it, obviously, and has listened to 10 or 12 different things that have recapped it, so we won't get too crazy into it, but just a couple of my initial thoughts were Penn State. I mentioned Penn State not really repeating the mistakes Georgia made against Notre Dame, and I don't think it was as bad as what Georgia was, but they still made enough. That first drive where they got 3 and Aller throws the ball a little low to a wide open Singleton, and Singleton drops it. It would have been would have just fell in the end zone. It would have been 7. That's a little bit on both of them. I don't think it was a good throw. I also think it was close enough to Singleton where he could catch it. And at the very worst, I think his butt's down on the 1 yard line and they go for it on the next play. Maybe they get 7. So, that was a big one for me. The strip sack that they didn't get right before the half, and part of that was that Abdul Carter played with one arm. He couldn't totally grasp the ball on the ground. It leads to a Notre Dame field goal. That happened around, I'm going to say, the Penn State 45-yard line. Penn State gets that ball. There's a chance they get a field goal of their own because there's about 40-something seconds left, and they had 2 timeouts, I think. Halftime could have been 13-0 instead of 10-3, which would have made a huge difference as well. There was the drive that Penn State had, the first one to try to take the lead after Notre Dame tied it, where they went 3 and out. Singleton had a false start that set them back, and I think they were a yard or 2 short of a first down on that drive. So, he doesn't cost them 5 yards. They move the chains there. Maybe it's different. Obviously, the 2 defenders falling down on the long Notre Dame touchdown. And then finally, obviously, the Aller interception, the big one, the one that ended it, the one thing he couldn't do. I know he said he was trying to kind of throw that ball on the ground. The ball got pretty high in the air to be thrown at the ground. I know it was a good play by the corner, but a lot of little mistakes. I think it overshadowed what was the best I've seen Deni Dennis Sutton look as a Penn State player. It was an all-star, out of this world performance from Abdul Carter with one arm, and Tyler Warren was Tyler Warren. A little disappointing that those kind of big, and Singleton had 3 touchdowns, but those big days got overshadowed by the loss. Just a lot of little things, and that's kind of always been the case with Penn State under Franklin. A lot of little mistakes sinks them. We look at all those close losses to Ohio State. There's always a bunch of things you could point to, and it's kind of the case here again.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. The 2 biggest plays to me that changed the game, like you said, Singleton dropping the ball and having to settle for 3. We get 7 there. The game's totally different. And then Cam Miller falling. Yeah. And that literally gave them all the momentum, all they needed. That they weren't throwing the ball that well. Then I don't know what happened to our secondary. They don't have many passes over 30 yards, and the most they've had was against us. And that play just changed the game with Cam Miller falling and just giving them an easy touchdown. You make them drive 3 more minutes down the field, it's still a totally different ball game where they still have to come back and it's totally different. They scored right away. So like you said, we always seem to beat ourselves in these big games, and we play right into Notre Dame's hands. They capitalized off turnovers and mistakes, and that's what they did. We turned the ball over. They win the game. That's how it goes. we obviously, anybody that watched the game knows we were the better team that day. They didn't outplay us. We just beat ourselves, which seems to be the case as always. So, I mean, it's not like too much to say other than like something's got to change. I mean, like there's always like everybody's looking into next year and how it's probably the best team Franklin's going to have under his belt and most experience and people coming back. But it's just the same old stuff where it's like, I'm going to have to believe it to see it. Like we might have the team, but if we still don't tighten up with the mistakes, Oregon's still going to come to our house and beat us by probably a field goal or a touchdown just because we make one silly mistake that changes the game. And I know that they were saying in the national championship how many third downs they got against us.
Yeah.
Like you stop them on a few, that changes the game. I mean, you also can't blame the defense. Also, we didn't even get into this. Our wide receivers never catch. Like that.
Well, yeah, I missed that part. Yeah.
Yeah, like just watching the Ohio State game, their wide receivers were open all day. So how bad does that say our wide receivers are? Like, no offense. Like, actually, no. Like at this point, like we can't even. Like they're out of here. It doesn't even matter. Like we're cleaning house. We're bringing Hudson. We're bringing Ross. I'm hoping that changes something, but also it's like we brought in transfers. They still have done nothing. So it's like I still don't know. Like we've had a few good ones. I will say like Mitchell Tinsley. He wasn't like a wow. Like he made all the great plays, but he did his job. And like Julian Fleming, like we needed him to do something, but also like he did like do what he was supposed to do. He was never a flashy player at Ohio State. I mean, he blocked and did his job, but no one stepped up. Trey Wallace didn't step up when we needed someone to step up. And like you said, that Drew Aller throw, I don't know what he was thinking. Also know what the play call is. Like I get we want to win, but like we were running the ball down their throat.
Yeah.
Like for 10 to 15 yards a time. Like I get it, but also at that point, we got to go probably 50, 40 yards because our kicker, he's been good, but he can't kick that far. He's not making a 52, 53-yard field goal. Most likely, we got to get to like 45. So it's like, I get it, but also at that point, with the momentum, I say we take it in overtime because they're not stopping the run, and that's playing right to our advantage at the 25-yard line. We just have to get a first down, 2 first downs and a touchdown, and we can do that, I think. So it's just the same old stuff. I feel like at this point, it's like we were the better team, should have won. That's seen to happen multiple times this year. Even when Ohio State came to our house, still thought we played better and should have won that game when we had fourth down. We had first down at the 5 and couldn't convert a touchdown. That's not championship football, and obviously we didn't deserve to be in the championship because if you can't make those plays, you're not going to win. Which it sucked watching last night because we all knew we should have been there. Obviously, with how we played, we were better. But at some point, something's got to change. So it's just disappointing. It's the same old stuff like, yeah, we beat SMU and Boise State, but I really wanted that Notre Dame win. Because it's just like SMU and Boise State, cool, but is that really that great of a win? We're easily the better team. Like Notre Dame was a really even matchup, I feel like, for the most part, and we really did dominate in the trenches. And one other key part was them scoring a field goal before halftime. Like that backup coming in and just dicing us and getting 3 points. You take those 3 points away, we win the game. So it's just like those little things. They add up in the game, and they make you lose close games, and that's what happened. So, I mean.
Yeah, so it's funny. Penn State scored 24 in this game. They could have scored as many as maybe 34 without completing a single pass to a receiver, which is kind of impressive in a sense. And it says a lot about how good the offensive line and the running backs were going at the time, and Tyler Warren. They were all dialed. Like it was impressive to see against a pretty good defense. Defensive line played pretty well for the most part. They locked down the Notre Dame rushing attack in the first half, but a couple things that screwed them. We just mentioned the field goal. Like Notre Dame controlled the end of the first half, and then right out of half, the beginning of the second half, and Penn State's 10-0 lead was gone before Penn State got the ball back. It was 10-10, by the time they got the ball in the second half, and that screwed them a lot. And Tom Allen, who's gone now, I know there's a lot of, we could get into this later. There's a lot about who's replacing him because they still don't have anyone. And I know like there's a lot of concern about that to an extent, but I'm not exactly mad he's gone. The defense was not good in the second half of this game. I don't think they gave up more than 14 in a second half this season, and they gave up 24 in this game against a team that was not moving the ball at all outside of a field goal on a drive where they got strip sacked and our guy with one arm was on top of the ball and just couldn't, collect it and it fell off from under him and the Notre Dame offensive lineman took it from him. So that was a very poor performance in the second half from Tom Allen and the defense. That was disappointing to see because I think, the offense 24, should they have put up somewhere around 28 to 31? Yeah. But I don't know. That wasn't fun to watch. That was a little discouraging what the defense did in the second half too. And it's kind of fallen under the radar just because of the whole receiver thing with them not having any catches in the first time for Penn State in like 20, 30 years or something like that. But that was a big sticking point for me too. Tom Allen did not call a good game. I thought Andy Kotelnicki called a really good game. Drew Aller missed throws. I mean, I didn't bring this up. They had Singleton on that wheel where at the very least they were deep in their own territory, like on their own 15. At the very least, he was getting to the Notre Dame side of the field. Like he probably scores on that because he had his guy beat. And then there was a defensive back kind of downfield a little bit who it would have been one-on-one. And that guy was coming over on an angle too from defending someone else. So, I mean, he hits that at worst. I think Penn State's at the 50. And maybe they at least get a field goal there. I mean, Drew missed 2 pretty much touchdowns to Singleton, threw the bad pick. He was not good, and it was a little disappointing to see. I know, talking to some people who aren't Penn State fans, they were like, man, all that hype came out about him being a top 3 pick and all those NFL scouts were there. And, did it get to his head? Maybe. I don't know. I just think he wasn't all that good in the playoff. Now, the first game, the weather was awful outside. They relied on their defense, and they ran the ball. The second game was in a dome, and he was accurate early, but then they just kind of leaned on the run game, and that was the end of the game. This game, I don't know. He just wasn't there. They gave him plays. The plays were honestly there to be made. He didn't make them. So that's an issue, too, that they have to correct going into next season. But I thought offensively, Kotelnicki called a pretty good game. I honestly thought Franklin stayed out of his own way. I thought he went for it when he should have. You could argue that first field goal, maybe go for it there. But when it's 0-0, you just want to get on the board. I get that. It was 4th and 3. I think if it was anything closer, he probably goes. But I thought he was fine. I don't think he did anything to lose them this game. It was just the defense wasn't solid in the second half, and Aller wasn't there the whole night. There's some good things to take from it and some bad.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like I know everybody criticizes Franklin, but at some point it's the players. You can only call the plays. You can't be out there performing the plays. That's what it came down to with Drew. I mean, in almost every big game, it's been too big for him so far. In the first 2 years, at least, I know Oregon he played good, but even on the last drive, he throws a pick. Yeah. In which I get it. It's one-on-one even for that. Like, I get this chance, and the dude makes an insane play, which happens in the Notre Dame game too. When they have great athletes, they're going to make great plays. It's just how it is. And it just seems like every big game we've had so far, like Boise State, he played a great first half, and then we stopped with him, which isn't his fault. But other than that, every Ohio State game, he's been average at best, if not worse than average.
I think he's been below against
Ohio State. Exactly. So, like, there's nothing – like, he did good in, like, bad defenses. When it comes to good defenses, he hasn't been good. Mm-hmm. And I get it. And the pick thing, like, being a top, 15 pick, that's not going to change just because of who he is as a prospect. He can be terrible. He's not even doing terrible. He's had good games, so they know what he can be. So I don't know if that was really it. I just don't know if he's completely developed, which is why he is coming back. And also, I get it because our wide receivers are absolutely terrible too. But at some point, there's many plays this year where our wide receivers have been wide open. He's overthrown them. He's made terrible throws. Like there's many times where I'm just questioning his decision making. So there's definitely a lot that still needs to be worked on. And I guess it is a positive that we did win 13 games and went to the semifinal in the playoffs with him not even playing close to his best football yet
Mm-hmm.
and not having really any great wide receivers. I get he had Tyler Warren, but at some point they're just going to triple team him like they did. We even talk about this. He should have had 3 picks, essentially, honestly. There's 2 plays where that could have gone either way, and they gave us the ball. Like there was multiple times where it's like that could have been a PI, that could have just been whatever. So it's just like it could have been 3 picks in Notre Dame. So there's just I don't know. Like there's a lot to look forward to for next year, but there's also a lot I'm still questioning. And like you said, Tom Allen, I've been saying this all year. Like it's the defense that's good. It's not him. They make him look good. Like there's I'm questioning why we're playing so much soft coverage when we got Illinois at home for a whiteout, and they're just running slants down the field for 60 yards, and we don't change once. It's been like that all year, where he's just had really questionable play calling with the athletes that we have. I didn't really understand, and like also like he's had good games, but also like you said, I'm not very upset that he's gone. And I get that it's a little concerning that we haven't had a hire yet. But also, if we're looking for the right hire, I do trust Franklin with defense coordinator. It's like what we've had 3 or 4 in the last 4 years. I don't know the exact number, but each one that has came in, our defense has played great. So
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about that, especially when we have all this production coming back too. I'm not really worried about who's back there because I still think we'll be elite at that side of the ball. But also, at some point, it's got to all come together, and I'm hoping it is next year because that's really probably the last time we're going to have it for a while. Unfortunately, it's looking like that way. If we do go to whatever national championship or whatever, then recruiting might take off. Transfer portal might take off for us. We might get better recruits all around. But from what I saw this year, yeah, it was great to be in the semis. But also, it's still the same thing. We didn't really win the big one. So next year, it's really that's like it for me. Like not for the Penn State, but it's like if Franklin can't win with that team, I don't know what team he's going to win with. Especially with the offseason coming, if we get 1 or 2 more wide receivers that are elite too, like if we get an actual wide receiver 1 from a team and we still can't win a game, a big game, there's nothing else we can do. Like at this point, with everybody coming back, the quarterback's back, our elite running back's back, our whole O line's basically back, other than Wormley, and we still got they're still going to be elite. Most of our D line's coming back. We still don't know about Monty Vanover, whatever's going on with that, just because they're
I'll get into that.
and then we got AJ Harris or Zakee Wheatley coming back, DDS, Zane. There's a lot of key pieces returning for next year. So there's a lot to look forward to. But also, it's still, I think we're all as a Penn State community kind of coming to a collective group where it's we can't believe it until we actually see it at this point. Because everybody thought this year was the year we were going to beat Ohio State, especially when you're up. It's the same thing. Notre Dame, Ohio State, we're up 10-0, we lose the game. That's just not going to work. That doesn't fly when you're an elite team. If you're up, like Ohio State was up, they put the foot to the gas against Notre Dame. Even when Notre Dame had a great second half, they ended up winning that game. That's what elite teams do. So, that's all I really have to say at this point about it. The season was great. I'm happy we made the semifinals. We should have made the finals. That's probably the easiest path we're ever going to get in the college football playoff. They're going to end up changing it. I guess I saw that they probably won't change it next year, but 2026 it'll probably be changed. The soonest it will be then. So maybe if we get the 6th seed again, we'll get lucky. But even I don't know. It's going to come down to the little mistakes again. They cost you the big games, and if we don't change that, it's going to be the same old story.
Yeah, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So back to Tom Allen. A lot of things I've seen people say is he was not used to having that much talent on a team, and he might have been too conservative at times with these soft coverages and stuff, because at Indiana, maybe he couldn't trust his corners one-on-one with these guys and stuff like that. At Penn State, talent's a little better. You could do those kind of things. So, let's just see how he does at Clemson, because obviously, they're about in the Penn State level of talent, if he makes any changes or anything. But I think, Manny Diaz was at Miami, who, they always underachieved, but they had talent. So I think he knew how to handle talent. And that's why his defenses were good. I don't know if Tom Allen knew how to handle talent. And I hope whoever Penn State brings in is someone who knows how to handle talent, because you could be aggressive, you could trust your guys, and I don't think Tom Allen did any of that. So that's something to keep in mind with the defensive coordinator. For the roster, I mean, this offensive line is actually loaded, and that's what makes me feel good about next year is, one, you got those 2 running backs back, which I thought there was a 50% chance, not 50, a little higher, like 75% chance you get one of them back. Chance of getting 2, I thought was like 5%. I thought maybe Singleton would come back in the mid. This was towards the middle of the season when he was hurt, not really doing much. But then, around the Oregon game, the switch just flipped for him. I'm like, oh man, he's gone. I thought Katron was gone from the get-go, but the fact they got both of them back with Aller, I thought was huge. They got Dawkins back. I know, Dawkins isn't the most talented guy, but the center, is kind of the leader of the offensive line, the leader of the offense. Just bring a guy back for a 6th year is going to be big. And then, as you said, Wormley's gone, but Cooper Cousins might be the best offensive lineman on the team. So to get him in the starting lineup is huge. And on defense, you said DDS, Durant, Wheatley. King is a big loss. I think it would have been nice to have him back. I mean, they're high on Keon Wiley, who didn't play this year because of injury. So we'll see. If they don't get a linebacker in the spring portal, I'd say they trust the guys they have, which is a good sign in my opinion. So that's just something to keep an eye out for in the spring. But College Football with Sam brought this up in his kind of post-Penn State season video. And he said Penn State brings, I'm paraphrasing, but Penn State brings a lot back, but they lose their aliens. And that's Tyler Warren and Abdul Carter. They bring pretty much everyone back except them and Reed, who is pretty good safety. But, those 2 guys that was the best player on your offense, that was the best player on your defense. And, the offense kind of ran through Warren and the defense kind of ran through Carter. So who's going to step up to take over for those guys as in that alien role? Is it going to be Nick Singleton? Is it going to be maybe Drew Aller? Is it going to be one of these transferred receivers? Is DDS going to get in, make that kind of step? Is AJ Harris going to get to that level as a corner? That's what I'm looking out for, is who are going to be those go-to guys that end the season as projected first-round picks. So that's a big thing for me. I like the roster as a whole, but you need some stars in big moments. And obviously Warren and Carter were huge in the Orange Bowl. They did not lose because of either of those guys. But you just got to find those replacements now, those guys you can lean on in big games. And I'd like it to be Drew. I'd like it to, be DDS and Durant. That would be best case for me. We're going to see. But that's a big thing for me, just kind of finding who's next to step up into those, the Barkley, the Micah Parsons roles in the past. Just the guy that you knew was the best player on the team. Because I don't think right now who would you say the best players on the team next year?
Best player on defense, I'm going Zane Durant for sure.
Okay.
I think DDS will be there after what I saw in the playoffs. He showed up. He didn't really show up during the season that much, but he showed up in the biggest moments, which means a lot, honestly, more than the regular season. So I'll give him that. He shows a lot of potential, and I trust him now. So I think with another offseason, he can be great. But Durant showed up all year, so I'm going to trust Durant right now. On defense, offensively, I mean, it's got to be Singleton or Allen to me, just because, I don't know the wide receivers yet. I can't say Drew because I don't know who he's throwing to. Yeah, Hudson had a few great catches, cool, and he did pretty good in a few games. He looks like he can be really good, I mean, Ross played at Troy, which I don't trust as much, but again, he
Yeah.
played Iowa and he demolished them.
Right.
So he did play elite talent and he did kill them. So there's that. But yeah, I've got to go probably Singleton and Durant for now until I see different. Like you said, I mean, I mean, Singleton can be insane. We saw him his freshman year. We've seen him when he's fully healthy. If he can be fully healthy next year, he can be insane. So I can trust him. And then Durant on defense, yeah, he's been insane this whole year. Honestly, he's showed up a lot, and with another year, he can be great. So as of now, until we get any transfers, for me, at least in the offseason, I'm looking for another at least one wide receiver. I know Denmark's is supposed to be good, but like he's still so young. And like I know I saw someone like tagging some today that he's like he should be a wide receiver one. I'm like, if he is that good, why wasn't he on the field? If he was that good, he would have been on the field. Like I get it. Like
Yeah.
he's supposed to be good, but that just doesn't make sense to me. So
No,
I mean,
I agree.
that's at least for me. I don't know who you think on offense and defenses, but
I mean, I would lean Singleton. Defense, probably Durant. I think AJ Harris is really underrated, actually. I just think it's the
yeah.
fact no one really throws at him. We don't really talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was just a huge get they got. We're talking about a guy who was a top 20 recruit coming out of high school. It's kind of flown under the radar. Just picking him up from Georgia, like, I don't think we talked about that one enough, honestly. That was a huge get. But, that's where I lean right now. The receiver thing, obviously. So Hudson and Ross are 1 year rentals. And I get it because you're kind of all in on this season because after the season, you lose Drew, both running backs, half the O-line, DDS, Durant, Wheatley, I could go on. So you're kind of all in the season anyway. But if I could get a Mylan Graham, a Nick Marsh, someone that has a couple years left that I could have long term, that would be nice too. A guy that could be my number one for a couple years. But I think they need someone in that level of talent. And Ross is a huge X factor / question mark for me because he's like 5'9", 160, but at the same time, he ripped apart Iowa, like you said. So can he do that consistently with a better offense, or is he not, built for Big Ten football? That's a big question to me because if he can be that explosive like he was versus Iowa every week, Penn State's in good shape. But if he's Caden Saunders, it's a problem.
And also one underrated player that developed so much this year, Zion Tracy. With him coming back, he will be, I think, one of our best players on defense too. He showed he can make the big plays. And I think, honestly, after Ole Miss, I thought he was going to be terrible. Right. He got absolutely lit up, and I did not trust him. And he showed me wrong this year with making a ton of plays for us, including the pick six versus Ohio State, including multiple tackles in the backfield, beating the wide receivers on blocks, just blowing it up. Like, I think he can be really good with AJ Harris there, which honestly I have no worry in our secondary that much. Honestly, the biggest worry, I mean, for me, if we're just going to talk about for like next year, offense is still wide receivers, obviously. O-line, quarterbacks. I trust Drew a little bit. I think he can be good. Running backs are elite. O-line's elite. We have 2 5-star tight ends. We'll be fine there. Luke Reynolds looked great when he played. I trust him. So, I mean, it's going to come down to wide receivers, and I think linebackers. Our linebacker, like Kobe being gone, is a huge loss. I know he wasn't the big play type of linebacker, but you never really saw him make a mistake until Tom Allen made him on an island in the Notre Dame game against that, which is a whole other issue too that we never got into. But he was on an island and he got beat, and that's really people just look at that and think he wasn't good, but he was great for us all year. He made the plays when needed, and he did his job. And that one time, he didn't do his job.
Yeah, I think that might be part of the reason why Tom Allen didn't get mentioned in his thank you letter when he declared for the draft, because I think he might have hurt his draft stock a little bit. I don't think he's too happy about it. But like I said, they got to find someone, but I'm not really mad about the Tom Allen thing. Like,
No, I'm not either.
I wasn't a huge fan.
I trust.
The Bowling Green game, I started to get concerned. Then the USC game, it peaked up again. They got lucky. They won. It went away for a little bit. The Oregon game, it reared its head really bad. And then Notre Dame, like to an extent, did it again. Like those quick hitters and stuff killed them. So I don't know. We'll see with the defense coordinator. But
Yeah.
the good news is, and I know some people won't agree with the receiving part of this, but the good news is it looks like the majority of the staff outside of him is back. And that's huge. So happy about that. Like I said, you lose 4 really good players in Warren, Reed, King, and Carter. And Izzard and Ellis too, actually, the defensive tackles. I'll add them into that. But you bring back a heck of a lot. You brought in some nice transfers, including King Mack coming back. Like, I think you have enough to make a run. And you have Oregon at home early in the season. They'll be breaking in a new quarterback. I think you got a chance here. So we'll see. But, like, as of right now, I do like what they're building. I think they need the finishing touches, though, in this spring portal.
Yeah, no, like I said, I wanted to see a wide receiver. I'd like a linebacker and probably another defensive end or defensive tackle if possible that has experience and
So if Vanover comes back,
that's what I was
you're
gonna say.
okay. Like, yeah, that's a whole weird thing where, like, he's out of eligibility, but he hasn't said goodbye or he's declaring for the draft. Apparently there's a waiver in for him and he hasn't said anything. So it's been a while. Not really sure.
Well, if he comes back, I trust that he played great too when he needed it. Like, he showed me something I was not expecting this year. He played great. And if we get him and DDS on each side with Durant in the middle, I trust their D-line just as much as last year, even though we don't have Carter. The thing is, look, we had those great players, but like we said, that got you so far. I'd rather have a balanced team with passing the ball to multiple players than abusing 2 people. Like, I get those are 2 big losses, but we relied on them. If they're not going to show up every game, or people are going to work to stop them. So it's like, at some point, like, yeah, I know it sucks that they're leaving, but it could be good. Like, not in a way where we're not just abusing them, where our whole game plan is around Tyler Warren. If we have 3 wide receivers, you got a lot more to worry about as opposing defense with their running game too. So I know it sucks. They were both great, arguably like 2 of the best Penn State players in history.
Right.
So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, that sucks. But also, if we have a more rounded roster, our defense can be just as good, if not better, because we have elite players in every position. So I'm hoping some of these people can take the next step, like DDS, Durant be a little bit better. Rojas, I need to see a little bit more consistent.
That's a big one. Yeah,
he's been good. He's been bad. He's really like a Brandon Smith vibe to me, but a little bit better, more consistent. It's like he's got all the talent, but he hasn't really put it all together yet. Where it's like sometimes he'll be in the backfield, he'll have the guy, and he'll just go for a hit stick instead of just wrapping up getting the tackle. So it's like, and then we also see the pick 6 versus SMU where he looks insane, where the dude's athleticism is freaking through the roof. So it's like that, and then like Zakee Wheatley's a ball hawk, and he's been great at open field tackling, and who knows what King Mack's going to bring to the table. I mean, he didn't really play at Alabama, but he was a great recruit. I know he was probably scared at the time with Winston and Reed. Wasn't expecting any playing time, so he'll get his chance too. So there's a lot of questions. But yeah, like you said, next year looks great. It looks great on paper, but on paper and playing is 2 different things. Yeah. So we're just going to have to see. Like you said, we got Oregon at home early. That's a game you really can't lose. You win both Oregon and Indiana at home, because I'm never going to trust beating Ohio State. So I'm taking it as an L already. We're 11-1. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, and you got to go to Iowa, which is never easy.
Yeah, I get it's never easy, but their team just looks to be keep falling down a little bit from recent years. Personally, I know it's still going to be scary, but they don't really scare me as much, where they don't have like those certain players that can make or break a game.
Right.
So we'll see with that. But yeah, I agree. There's a few scary games on there for sure that we could easily lose that we've seen Franklin lose before. So we'll see. But yeah, on paper it looks great for next year. But like I said, on paper, I don't think we're not going to make the playoff. I think we'll make it 10-2 or 11-1.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, we'll see.
and
All right.
look,
So
with that being said, though, last thing, Ohio
go
State
ahead.
was 10-2 and they went on a run. So I mean, you
Yeah.
can't go 10-2 and win the. You can win the national championship if you figure it out in the end. So I mean,
Yeah,
there's
you
that.
just got to get in and get hot
Yeah.
like they did. Because I mean, look, their last regular season game, they were absolutely embarrassed by Michigan.
Yeah.
And people kind of thought they were maybe one and done in the playoff, and just didn't happen. So they steamrolled pretty much everyone they played. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it happens. All right, so that's gonna do it for this. I guess we'll be back sometime in the spring unless something crazy happens, but probably gonna take a couple months off. So we'll be back to talk about the portal in the spring, a new defensive coordinator maybe, and maybe what the spring game looked like. It's kind of late this year, I think, because of Easter, but
Yeah.
we'll be back to talk about that at some point. So we'll see you then.